Where should we start?
Okay, let's nail the basics first. What is introversion, fundamentally?
Okay, so at its core, introversion is basically a personality preference. It's about being drawn more to your own internal world.
Your thoughts, feelings, that sort of thing?
Exactly, your inner mental life. And this usually leads to behavior that's more, well, reserved and maybe reflective. You'll find this core idea pretty consistently across the board, from Wikipedia to dictionary definitions like Merriam-Webster.
Right. But before we go deeper, we absolutely have to clear up the common mix-ups.
Oh, yes. Crucial point, the biggest one.
Thinking it's the same as being shy or having social anxiety.
Precisely. Susan Cain really emphasizes this, and we saw it in Lenny's newsletter and Wikipedia too. They're not the same thing. Shyness is rooted in a fear.
Fear of judgment.
Yeah, fear of social judgment, worrying what people think. Social anxiety is like a more intense version of that fear. But introversion, that's about energy.
Energy. How so?
It's about where you draw your energy from. Introverts tend to prefer environments with less external stimulation. It's not a fear, it's a preference.
Got it. So an introvert can enjoy a party, maybe, but it'll cost them more energy than it would an extrovert. They'll need to recharge after.
That's a great way to put it. Think about Carl Jung, one of the pioneers in this area, right? Wikipedia mentions his work.
Jung, yeah. What was his take?
He defined introversion as orienting your life through your own subjective psychic contents, basically drawing energy and meaning from your internal world, thoughts, feelings.
As opposed to?
As opposed to extroversion, which Jung saw as being primarily oriented towards the external object. The outside world, other people, events.
So introverts aren't necessarily antisocial. They just find their main source of fuel internally.
Exactly. Jung observed they often seem a bit aloof from external stuff. Big, loud gatherings, usually not their first choice.
Makes sense.
They often find real pleasure, actual enjoyment in solitude, and tend to do their best work alone, less swayed by, the buzz of a crowd.
Which is pretty different from the typical image of an extrovert.
Totally. Extroverts, as Wikipedia lays out, tend to get gratification from outside themselves. They enjoy the interaction, they're often energetic, talkative, really thrive in group settings.
Okay, so we have these two sort of poles, inward focus for energy versus outward focus. But it's not strictly one or the other, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. That's maybe the most important thing to grasp. It's a spectrum, a continuum.
Right, not neat little boxes.
Oh.
Wikipedia makes that clear.
Very clear. And that brings us smack dab into the middle ground.
Ambiverts. Hearing that term more and more.
Yep, ambiverts. These are the folks who fall somewhere in the middle of that spectrum.
So they have a bit of both. Introvert and extrovert tendencies.
Exactly. They can exhibit traits from both sides. Science of People had some really interesting stuff on this.
Like what? What's the advantage of being an ambivert?
Well, they potentially have this social superpower, as the article put it. They can tap into that deep thinking we associate with introverts, but they can also engage socially with the kind of ease you might see in extroverts. They adapt.
So they can kind of flex.
Yeah.
Be quiet and focused when needed, but also step up and be outgoing.
Sort of, yeah. They seem to navigate both solitary work and social situations pretty effectively. And here's a kicker. Science of People highlighted a study about ambiverts and, get this, sales.
Sales. Okay, I'm intrigued. Spill the beans.
Right. You'd think the classic outgoing extrovert would rule sales, but studies suggest ambiverts might actually be the most successful.
No way. Why?
It seems to be about balance. They can really listen, understand the client tapping into that introverted skill, but they're also comfortable being assertive, persuading, drawing on the extroverted side.
Wow. So they listen well, but aren't afraid to close the deal.
Exactly. And apparently the data showed they generated more revenue than people who were strongly introverted or strongly extroverted.
That's a genuine curveball. It completely flips the script on the stereotypical loud salesperson.
It really does. And it leads nicely into the next point. Being more introverted clearly isn't a roadblock to success.
Not at all. And there are tons of examples, right?
Oh, absolutely. The Science of People article gave a fantastic list, really diverse. Think about Marie Curie.
Double Nobel Prize winner. Science legend.
Right. Changed the world, but known for being quite reserved. She preferred her lab over public attention, even with her huge discoveries.
Focus. Deep work.
Exactly. And you see this pattern again and again. Success not despite introversion, but often fueled by that capacity for focus, for independent thought, that rich inner life.
Okay, who else? Give us some more.
Meryl Streep, iconic actress, right? She's actually described herself as an introvert, preferring to stay out of the limelight when she's not, performing.
Interesting. You wouldn't necessarily guess that.
Then there's Mark Zuckerberg. runs Facebook, one of the most social companies ever, but he's known for being more reserved, preferring smaller groups. Facebook itself kind of grew out of that solitary focus.
It's kind of amazing how much global impact comes from people who aren't necessarily the loudest voice in the room.
It really is. Eleanor Roosevelt, think about her impact on human rights. She called herself shy, yet became this incredible diplomat and advocate. Marvin Gaye, his music is so soulful, so personal. Offstage, though, known to be quiet. He clearly channeled that inner world into his art.
Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss, yes.
Oh.
Huge imagination, right? Captivated millions. But he was an introvert whose creativity sparked in solitude.
These examples cut across everything: science, arts, tech, activism.
Totally. Rosa Parks, her quiet strength started a massive movement. She was described as soft-spoken.
A quiet act with huge consequences.
Einstein, he literally said the monotony and solitude of a quiet life stimulates the creative mind. Clearly worked for him.
Can't argue with relativity.
Then you've got tech leaders like Marissa Mayer, who talked about being shy and introverted, but channeled that into tackling complex technical problems. Even sports figures like Tim Duncan.
The Stone Buddha, so calm on the court.
Exactly. Let his game do the talking. The list is, well, it's long.
Keep going. This is fascinating.
Okay. Virginia Woolf, incredible writer, drew so much from her inner life. Charles Darwin, same thing, quiet. Introspective work led to the theory of evolution.
Emma Watson,
identifies as kind of an introverted kind of person. J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter, born from imagination in quiet moments.
Makes sense for writers.
Nikola Tesla, the quintessential inventor, deeply focused, gave us AC electricity. Abraham Lincoln, known for being thoughtful, quiet, grappling with huge issues.
Guess who then?
Absolutely. Bill Gates values time alone to just think. He specifically carves out think weeks. Mahatma Gandhi, immense influence driven by quiet strength and reflection.
Incredible.
Sia, hiding her face, partly due to her introverted nature. Chopin, preferring intimate concerts. Elon Musk calls himself an introverted engineer. Isaac Newton, famously reclusive. Larry Page, Steven Spielberg, Warren Buffett, Steve Wozniak.
Wozniak, the technical genius behind Apple's start.
Right, focused on the building behind the scenes. Even artists like Lana Del Rey, her whole vibe is very introspective. It fuels her work.
Okay, wow, that's a powerful list. Looking across all those diverse people, what are the common strengths that seem to emerge for introversion?
Well, the science of people piece pulled out some key themes. Deep thinking is a big one. Analytical skills.
Makes sense with the internal focus.
Right. And creativity often flows from that rich inner world. Empathy, too, developing it through careful observation rather than constant talking.
Observation skills. Yeah.
The ability to focus deeply for extended periods, that's huge. And when they lead, it's often thoughtful, considered leadership. Not necessarily flashy, but steady.
These are incredibly valuable qualities in any field, really.
No doubt. And this connects back to Susan Cain's argument in Quiet. Wikipedia and Lenny's newsletter both touch on this.
What's her main point there?
She argues that Western culture, especially maybe in the U.S., often overlooks or misjudges these introverted strengths. We tend to value the outgoing, assertive type more.
Leading to wasted talent.
That's her fear, that we lose out on potential because we don't create environments where introverts can thrive in their own way. She really stresses introversion isn't some kind of second-class trait. Both introverts and extroverts are vital.
Society needs both styles.
Absolutely. Remember that Gandhi quote, "In a gentle way, you can shake the world." It speaks to that power of quiet influence.
Love that. Okay, so for listeners who are identifying with this, who feel more introverted, are there practical ways to, navigate a world that often feels built for extroverts?
Yes, definitely. Susan Cain, again, via Lenny's newsletter, offers some great practical tactics.
Like what?
First, really grasp that difference we talked about. Introversion isn't shyness. If public speaking is a fear, though, she suggests desensitization. Small steps, practice in low-stakes settings.
Okay, what else?
Focus on building deeper connections one-on-one, where introverts often shine, rather than trying to work a huge room.
Quality over quantity in relationship.
Kind of, yeah.
Right.
And use writing. Content creation, emails, reports, great ways for introverts to showcase their expertise without constant verbal performance.
Leverage your strengths.
Exactly. Also, communicate your needs to mentors or bosses. Let them know how you work best so they can advocate for you. Learn to say no politely to things that just drain your battery.
Protecting your energy.
Crucial. Super crucial. Reframe networking. Maybe think of it as just having a few focused conversations or attend smaller, more targeted events.
Less overwhelming.
Right. And in meetings, Play to your strengths. Listen deeply. Prepare thoughtful contributions beforehand so you can jump in confidently when you have something key to add.
Preparation helps.
Immensely. And finally, create a workspace that works for you. Minimize distractions. Allow for that focused, deep work.
These all sound really empowering. It's about working with your nature, not fighting it.
That's the core idea. Okay, shifting gears slightly, how common is introversion? What do the numbers say?
Good question. Estimates vary a bit, but sources like Science of People and Wikipedia suggest it's a pretty significant chunk of the population, maybe somewhere between a third and even up to half.
So potentially millions and millions of people.
Right. It's not some rare personality type.
Right.
And apparently it's more common in certain jobs.
Yeah, Wikipedia mentions that. Fields like law, especially things like intellectual property law, seem to have a higher proportion of introverts. Maybe that need for deep analysis and focused work plays a role.
Interesting. And what about culturally? Is introversion viewed differently around the world?
Oh, definitely. There are cultural variations. Wikipedia points out the U.S. is often seen as a more extroverted society, where being outgoing gets a lot of positive reinforcement.
The ideal is often portrayed as sociable and assertive.
Often, yeah. But in contrast, some Eastern cultures traditionally place a higher value on qualities associated with introversion, like contemplation, quietness, inner harmony.
Different values.
And there was that weird little factoid, too, that people living on islands tend to be more introverted.
Islands? Really? Any idea why?
The sources didn't really elaborate, but it's intriguing, isn't it? Maybe something about the environment or social structures. Who knows?
Definitely food for thought. Okay, let's tackle the happiness question. We also hear extroverts report being happier. Is that true? What's the link between introversion and happiness?
Right. That's a common finding in some studies, a correlation between extroversion and self-reported happiness. But, and this is a big but, it's really nuanced.
It's not straightforward.
Not at all. Wikipedia discusses a few theories. One is the instrumental view. Maybe extroverts just have more social interactions, and those interactions tend to boost positive feelings.
More chances for positive experiences.
Potentially. Then there's the temperamental view. This suggests a more direct link between personality and how sensitive we are to positive or negative emotions. Maybe extroverts are just wired to feel positive affect more readily. There's also the social attention theory. Maybe the core of extroversion is enjoying being the center of attention, and that itself is rewarding for them.
Interesting angle.
And one really fascinating study looked at the pleasure-arousal relation. It suggested that for introverts, pleasant feelings might often be linked with low arousal states, like feeling calm, relaxed.
Like reading a book, as you said earlier.
Exactly. Whereas for extroverts, pleasant feelings often correlated with high arousal activity, excitement, like that lively party.
So different paths to feeling good. Both valid, just different energy levels involved.
Precisely. It's not that introverts can't be happy, it's that their sources of happiness and the feeling itself might look different. And crucially, Wikipedia stresses other factors matter hugely.
Like what?
Like emotional stability, neuroticism plays a big role in happiness regardless of introversion, extroversion. Conscientiousness does too. And culture, as we mentioned.
So a stable introvert.
A stable introvert can absolutely be just as happy as a stable extrovert. The correlation isn't destiny.
That's a really critical point to make. So finally, for introverts living in our often very on and noisy world, what's the absolute key for maintaining balance and well-being?
Yeah, the non-negotiable. It's recharging.
Solitude. Alone time.
Yes. As the Vibe with Kai piece touched on, consciously making time for solitude isn't a luxury for introverts. It's essential. It's how they replenish their mental energy.
It's like plugging in your phone.
Exactly. It's not about being antisocial forever. It's about getting that quiet time needed to feel refreshed and ready to engage again, but on their own terms.
Okay, so wrapping this all up then.
Yeah.
It really feels like the big takeaway is that introversion isn't a deficit. It's a valuable way of being, packed with unique strengths.
Absolutely. Strengths that lead to success and fulfillment across basically every field imaginable. It's about appreciating the different ways people operate.
Understanding that diversity and how we experience the world, how we get our energy.
Right. And maybe thinking about where you fall on that spectrum.
Yeah.
And appreciating the strengths that come with your own style.
Definitely. Which leads us to a final thought for you, the listener. Knowing all this now about the nuances of introversion, the strengths, the strategies, how might really understanding introversion, whether yourself or in others you work with or live with, change things?
Yeah, how could it lead to, say, better collaboration? or just more empathy.
And maybe a greater appreciation for all the different ways people contribute, both quietly and loudly, to work and, well, to life itself. Something to think about.